Hello fellow Christians and comic book lovers, and thank you for tuning in to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at Phantom on the Scan #1 from Aftershock Comics. This was written by Cullen Bunn and the art is by Mark Torres. So I'll be taking a look at this first issue with spoilers, and then I'll look at a few things from a Christian worldview that I thought were particularly interesting. So let's get into this comic. "20 years ago, a comet fell to Earth. Since that night, Matthew has been haunted by a spirit that gives him incredible psychic abilities. But these abilities come with a price, and payment is due. Every time Matthew uses his gifts, he draws closer to death, and other psychics, all of whom gained their powers on the night the comet fell, are dying in the most horrible of ways. To save himself, Matthew gathers a group of psychics to solve the mystery of their powers before it's too late." Welcome to Pages of Light, where we analyze literature from a Christian worldview. If that sounds like something that you're into, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell down below so you don't miss any new videos. So Phantom on the Scan follows Matthew Jordan as he's struggling to cope dealing with these psychic abilities that he has, which came from looks like a near-death experience that involves a car accident and him being flung into a river. And there was also the comet that was coming over that we mentioned in the book's synopsis. And so he's struggling with this. He has nightmares frequently about the incident, and he also has this ghost-like apparition that follows him around and he's able to talk to. And his psychic abilities looks like they're from this ghost-like apparition. And so he's able to talk to this little ghost, and he can ask it to do different things. He can ask it to read people's mind. He can talk to him about the future, about what's going to happen to other people who have these same psychic abilities. And this ghost tells him that there's going to be another person that's like him that's going to die tonight. In the next scene, we see Matt talking to his psychologist or psychiatrist about these nightmares, and this little ghost is telling Matt that the doctor is lying to him, or he's keeping information from him that he should be telling. And so Matt asks the ghost to read his mind and to force him to tell him what is going on. And so it looks like there's little fingers of the ghost that are seeping into the doctor's mind, and he forces the doctor to tell him what's on his mind, and he gives him various names of people that are also like him, that are in the area that he's also sees as patients. And the process that this ghost uses to force the information out of the psychiatrist looks like a fairly painful process. Looks like his mind is all jumbled and he's like starting to bleed from his nose a little bit, and he says that he could get more information out of him, but it would probably kill him. So Matt tells the ghost to stop, and instead of killing the doctor, they leave, and he asks his little ghost to reach out to other ghosts that are the other psychic people and have all of these new people that he just learned about meet him at this local diner so they can talk about what's happening to them and how they could potentially fix it. So the next scene is we get to the diner, and this is where we meet these other psychic people that the ghost found out about. And so we have Jessica Atkins, Ashton Reed, Gerald Granville, and Ben Slater. And so, they kind of get acquainted with each other, and they're like, I don't even know why we're supposed to be here. But before they can really do anything, Ben is the one who cries out in pain, and he's like grabbing his head and screaming in pain. And they're like, oh, what's happening? What's going on? And right in front of them, his head just explodes, which is the same thing that happened to a previous person who also had psychic abilities that we saw earlier in the issue. And after this happens, there's like this little demon, or like probably large demon actually, that crawls out of the neck area after his head had exploded. He crawls out, and they're all like so freaked out. And it looks like Matt's ghost, he talks to them and he says, "This is what's coming for you all. This is the tie that binds and hates you for it." And that's where the issue ends. So in this comic, there were two things that I thought were particularly interesting from a Christian worldview perspective. The first is just the topic of demon possession and how Satan is interacting in the world today through evil spirits and demons. And the second is addiction and how addictions can be a tool that Satan uses to destroy the people of God and turn people away from the things of God. In this comic, we could certainly see the parallels between demon possession and what Matt is going through with this little ghost. So he talks to the ghost, he talks to him about his dreams, what the future is going to be like. He uses the ghost for personal gain by reading people's minds and forcing them to tell him the truth at the expense of those people, because it seems like a very painful process to go through. And he also uses the ghost to contact other demons and other people who are like him to get meetings together. And see, these are all things that we would associate today with like people possessed by evil spirits, whether you see it in the Bible or in just popular media in general. In the Bible, there's quite a few passages about demon possession and scenes where the demons are talking to Jesus or the apostles. One of the most famous ones is in Mark 5, where Jesus sends the demons out of this possessed man into a herd of pigs, where the pigs then run off a cliff into the sea and drown. So starting in Mark 5, verse 3, we read, "He lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart, and he broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones." In the New Bible Commentary from InterVarsity Press, great resource if you don't have it, by the way, if you need some kind of commentary to give you some more background on biblical stories and passages. But this book has a good overview of what this man is going through. It's on page 959. It says, "This man was not someone sitting quietly in a synagogue until aroused by Jesus preaching. His state was desperate, and no human beings could help or even restrain him. This man was in agony, torturing himself and under the influence of evil powers." So looking at this description, you can certainly see how the characters in this comic are going through similar situations where they're torturing themselves, they're going mad and going insane. They're not like in this, lullaby kind of nice state. Demon possession is a terrible thing, and it really affects you as a person, and it destroys you from the inside. And we can see in this comic that every time they use their powers or they do what the demon kind of wants them to do, it's killing them slowly. So in the real world, similar to what the characters are in this comic are going through, Satan and his minions, his demons, do not want the best for you. They want to pursue anything that will bleed you dry and will lead you away from anything that is related to God and what God wants for you. And one of the ways that Satan can pull people away from God is through addictions. And so in this comic, we see people struggling with addictions. We see the character who died earlier in the issue who was popping pills, and he was hearing voices and doing all of these different things. And popping pills can be a form of addiction. And I'm not saying that mental health things don't require you to take medication sometimes, but they can certainly be used in bad situations where you don't need them, but you're just taking them to make yourself feel better. And one of the things I mentioned earlier is that as these people, these psychic people, use their abilities, it brings them closer to death. And in the same way, addictions can do those same things in our own lives. Nothing may happen at the beginning whenever an addiction starts. It may just be something that we do that feels good or we like to do or whatever it is, and nothing might happen. But over a long period of time of doing the same destructive behavior, it will eventually lead us down a path to destruction, and we'll turn around and say, how did we even get here? Because we didn't realize it was happening in the first place. And the Bible is full of stories of people who are dealing with addictions. We have the story in John 4, where the woman at the well was addicted to the love and affection of other men. We have the story in Luke 12, the wealthy man who was addicted to his possessions and his wealth and his hoarding of all of these things. But then that very night, his life was demanded of him, and none of it mattered. And then further, we have the Pharisees who were addicted to power and being loved by people in the religious institutions and being thought of, they were the best religious people that were out there. But in the same way, we have in Matthew 23, verses 13 and 15, Jesus tells them, "But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut the kingdom of heaven in people's faces, for you neither enter yourselves nor allow those who would enter to go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel across the sea and land to make a single proselyte. And when he becomes a proselyte, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourselves. And so addictions and idols in our life are things that we have replaced God with. Instead of going to the Lord in prayer or reading our Bible daily, we pursue these worldly things instead of the heavenly things that God knows that we need. In conclusion, I thought this was an interesting comic to read and have a discussion about, but I'm not going to be picking up any of the next issues. I don't really have an interest in seeing where the story goes right now, and I don't think I need to read about demon possession or things akin to demon possession anymore than I need to. Still, I thought the art was pretty good. It had a good use of colors and the shadows, so hats off to Mark Torres for his work there for sure. And with all this talk of Satan and demons and addictions, you may be wondering, where's the hope and what do we have at our disposal to combat Satan and his evil forces? And so I'll just leave you with some comments from Paul in his letter to the church at Ephesus about putting on the armor of God. In Ephesians 6:10 through 20, we read, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and, as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances take up the shield of faith, which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one. And take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit, with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints, and also for me, that words may be given to me in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak." So I don't think I can say anything better than Paul has said there, so I will just leave it right there. If you like this video, please hit the like button down below and also hit the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss any new videos that I release. You can also leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts about Phantom on the Scan #1 if you did read it, or if not, you can leave me a comment about what your thoughts are on demon possession, addiction, or the armor of God and how we use that in our daily walk with the Lord. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video, and remember to keep reading and to share the gospel with somebody this week.